Welcome to the Prophecy Club. We're going to start a series today talking about scalar wave and how it could very well be what just hit us in South Texas called Hurricane Harvey. Now, what am I talking about? Well, first of all, in June of 2005, we had Bill Sneblin come in and make what I think is one of, if not the best DVDs out there talking about scalar wave. Now, first, let's talk about that. Bill reveals technology that the Russians have perfected that can knock out anything on the land, on the sea, under the sea, or in the air, any place on the globe, with little to no trace of who did it. It can also make large areas of the atmosphere super hot, which of course can cause storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, or super cold, causing devastating snow and ice storms, both of which we have seen over the last 20 years, rather strange storms. Some say that this Russian scalar wave was first used to sink the U.S. Thresher submarine in 1963. Also to knock out the Challenger space shuttle in January of 1986. But there was no evidence to prove it, one of the features of scalar wave, to destroy with little to no evidence. Scalar wave renders all conventional weapons of war obsolete. Against the Soviet energetics weapons, scalar waves has now changed how war must be conducted. Now, part of what Dmitry Duduman was told was American planes would go up trying to attack, but as they would draw close to the enemy planes, they would fall to the earth in a blaze of fire. Is that scalar wave? Could very well be. Now let's go to the second DVD we're also offering. Weapons of the New World Order by Nick Begich. This was made in April 2000. Again, both of these are based upon my research on the internet. These are about the best and the most recent. As far as I know, there's no new updated information on scalar wave. These are the two best DVDs I know of. So, Dr. Nick Begich discusses the latest developments in technology and its impact on humanity, freedom, human dignity, sovereign individuality, and self-determination. Topics are update on the HARP project. He'll explain that. The revolution in military affairs, its impact on freedom, non-lethal weapons and their use and impact on people, including radio frequency radiation, electromagnetic pulse, extremely low frequency, fields, lasers and chemicals, environmental and weather control, new technologies which will eliminate privacy, militarization of all law enforcement. Both DVDs valued at $30 each. It'd be a total of $60, but this week they're available for a gift of $30, and if you're one of the first 7 callers, you will be given a special offer to get an extra book. But again, you got to call 785-266-1112 to find out. 785-266-1112. All right, so the point of this broadcast and the next series of broadcasts was South Texas just hit by scalar wave in what we are told is Hurricane Harvey. So this next series of broadcasts, I'm going to play parts of these 2 DVDs explaining scalar wave and how it can cause exactly the damage that we saw in South Texas. Now again, I cannot guarantee the Russians did this. Again, that's one of the advantages of scalar wave. You could destroy and not be detected. So let's back up. Because if Russia did it, and again, we don't know that. However, one of the techniques that detectives use in solving crimes is motive. So us ask ourselves, who has motive to attack America? Well, I'm going to say Russia. Let's back up. December 2016. What happened? Obama decided to add sanctions over Russia's alleged role in meddling in the U.S. presidential election last year. Those sanctions included the closing of 2 Russian estates in New York and Maryland, which Obama administration said were used for intelligence activities. 35 Russians who were suspected of being spies were kicked out of the United States, and Russia's military intelligence arm, the GRU, and 4 of its high-ranking officers were also subject to sanctions. Now, those are personal sanctions, as were 5 other Russian entities. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has repeated his claim that the Russian government was not the source of the hacked Democratic campaign emails his organization released before the U.S. presidential election. But the Obama administration, citing U.S. intelligence sources, which, by the way, now have mostly been discredited, but let's go on, has accused Russia of orchestrating the hack of emails from the DNC and Hillary campaign chairman John Podesta in an attempt to influence the election's outcome. Now, I personally don't believe the Russians had anything to do with it. Assange was asked if WikiLeaks' source of the hacked material was Russia or anyone associated with Russia. Here's what he said.
We can say, we have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and it is not a state party.
Is he telling the truth? Yeah, I believe him. I mean, he has no reason to lie. There's no, as we say, motive. Speaking of motive, let's go back to talking about whether the Russians have a motive for attacking America. Let's go to April 2017. The Trump's campaign's alleged collusion with Russia swirled. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson was the first top administration official to meet with Russia. After a day's worth of meetings with Putin and his diplomatic counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, he said relations between the two countries were, quote, at a low point, unquote, and that there was a low level of trust. Okay, that's not good. Remember, the Russians, most of the time, are the world's chess champions. They are not stupid. They understand strategy. June 2017. About a month before Russia's sanctions were due to expire, the EU extended them until June of 2018, earlier in the month. Tillerson said Trump told him to rebuild relations despite the numerous investigations into his campaign ties alleged to Russia. July 2017, late in the month after Putin and Trump met for the first time at the G20 summit in Germany, a new sanctions bill overwhelmingly passed through both the U.S. House and the Senate to punish Russia for hacking the election. Now, they're still ignoring the fact that there's no evidence that they hacked it, and Assange comes out and openly says it was not Russia. But again, that's the truth has no bearing. Let's go on. In response, Putin ordered 755 U.S. diplomatic staff members to leave Russia, citing, quote, illegal restrictions, but likely because of the sanctions. The State Department later said that Putin's order would affect 455 staff members by September 1. July 30th, 2017, he said that the American diplomatic mission in Russia would have to reduce its staff. He did not say the diplomats would be expelled. Russia expels, headline here, Russia expels 755 U.S. diplomats in retaliation for sanctions. Tensions between Washington and Moscow are bound to increase after President Vladimir Putin said on Sunday that 755 U.S. diplomats will have to leave Russia by September 1. Moscow had already announced it would be expelling diplomats in retaliation for a measure approved by Congress earlier this week that expands sanctions against Russia. But Sunday marked the first official confirmation of how many of them would be forced to leave the country. Why 755? Russia wants the number of American diplomats in Russia to be the same number as the number of Russian diplomats in the United States. Russia is also seizing 2 U.S. diplomatic properties. Explaining the reasoning behind the retaliation during a television interview on Sunday, Putin said his government has gotten tired of waiting for relations with Washington to improve. Quote, we've been waiting for quite a long time that maybe something would change for the better. We had hopes that the situation would change, but it looks like it's not going to change in the near future, Putin said. I decided that it was time for us to show that we will not leave anything unanswered. Okay, did you read between the lines on that? Was that just Putin saying, I'm going to do something about it, kind of like Trump is saying, I'm going to do something about North Korea? Certainly sounds like it to me. Let's go on, though. Headline, Putin, Russia might expel another 155 U.S. diplomats. Now, this is, as in the last few days here. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Tuesday He is considering expelling another 155 State Department personnel from Russia, which would further escalate the diplomatic tit-for-tat with the U.S. So, strictly speaking, the number of American diplomats in Moscow should be not 455, but 155 fewer, if we are talking about parity. Putin told the reporters at a press conference in China, so we reserve the right to take a new decision on the number of American diplomats in Moscow. We will not do this immediately, but we will see how things develop. Putin's comment was a reference to the U.S. claim that the two countries are now at parity after the U.S. closed 3 Russian facilities last week. That action was a response to Russia's cutoff in the U.S. staff, which was a response to new U.S. sanctions imposed against Russia. Both Russia and the United States are trying to win the diplomatic spat without deepening the feud too egregiously. Tiller's team closed 3 facilities, but simultaneously argued for an end to the flap. Then, August 10th, headline, unarmed Russian Air Force jet flies over the Pentagon and the Capitol. Was that a shot across the bow? I think so. Another article, August 2017. The U.S. issues a response saying Russia's San Francisco annex, the oldest and most established in the country, can no longer be used. The State Department did say during a conference call with reporters Thursday that it had not taken the step of ordering diplomatic staff out of the country. Then, of course, now 822, Assange is now, well, here, let me read the article. 822, headline says, Assange meets U.S. congressman, vows to prove Russia did not leak him documents. Then August 24th, after all of this fussing and fighting back and forth, what happens? Hurricane Harvey hits Rockport, Texas. So, can we say that Russia absolutely positively used scalar wave to hit? We'll be right back after this message. Well, the truth is almost no people on earth agree on all points of the Bible. But if you listen to the Prophecy Club, the Spirit of Prophecy Church might be just right for you. Our 2 most controversial beliefs are speaking in tongues and post-trib. But you might have to attend a long time to see anybody speaking in tongues, and we don't really make post-trib a big deal. But our 2 only sticking points are Jesus is Lord and the King James Bible. So if you're not attending a church, or if you're maybe looking for a new or a different church home, especially if you like listening to the Prophecy Club, Spirit of Prophecy Church might be a fit. Most of our congregation found us via Prophecy Club, and many actually drive long distances to attend. We suggest you visit at least 5 times before making your decision, and if you walk in Sunday morning about 10:15, you walk into coffee and donuts. You're free to leave anytime, no questions asked. So, if you listen to Prophecy Club, give us a try. Spirit of Prophecy Church, 2540 K Avenue in Plano. That's on the corner of Park and K, like the margarine, right behind the Whataburger. Spirit of Prophecy Church, 2540 K Avenue, Plano, Sunday, 10:15. Ask for Stan. The number 1 killer in most emergency events, surprisingly, is drinking contaminated water. Being able to scoop water out of the puddle and filter it may save your life. I drink all of my water filtered through a Crown Berkey. Now, it's a gravity filter filtering down to virus levels. Contaminated water in the top gives you drinking water out the bottom. It's what the missionaries use. There are 7 Berkey options from 1 to 8 filters. Order them at prophecyclub.com. Be sure and order 2 to 4 extra black filters as backup. That's prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. Berkey water filters. And now, back to the program. Can we say that Russia absolutely positively used scalar wave to hit the southern part of Texas? No, we can't. However, do they have the motive? Yes. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Now, the point is, I think it ought to say a couple of things. If we have watched Trump, we have seen in his attitude an attitude of, I want to win, I'm willing to fight, I'm not going to take a step back. The problem is, we've seen the same attitude in Moscow. Moscow says, I want to win, I will also say I think Moscow doesn't like America, and they aren't going to back up. And, of course, we know what the prophets say. The prophets say that God is taking this nation down because of our sins, primarily the sins in the church. Now let's go on. Headline, Russia says war games are purely defensive. Guys, this is just August 29th. This is just a couple of days ago. It goes on to say military exercise planned for Baltic Sea region are highlighting tensions between NATO and Moscow. The Russian military dismissed Western concern over a major war game that has underscored Cold War-style tensions in the Baltic region, as the U.S. further beefed up its presence there. Headline, Russia sanctions, what we need to know. Now, this comes to us from the from the CNN, CNN.com website. Again, title is Russia Sanctions, What We Need to Know. So you may be asking yourself, well, wow, did America do something so bad to Russia that would justify them? Now some 60 people dead and some, 150 to 180 billion dollars in damage to South Texas. Have we done something to Russia that would warrant them hitting us like this? Well, let's see what the article says. U.S. President Donald Trump approved fresh sanctions on Russia Wednesday. Again, this is dated August the 2nd. Wednesday, after Congress showed overwhelming bipartisan support for the new measures. Congress passed the bill last week in response to Russia's interference in the 2016 U.S. election. Of course, never mind. Again, try to imagine this from Russia's point of view, assuming Assange is telling the truth, and I actually believe he is. I don't think Russia really had anything to do with the election. I think the Democrats are just a bunch of sore losers, and they don't like the fact that they lost the election, and so they're pointing fingers trying to come up with assigning blame someplace. And we may as well blame it on Trump and his collusion with the Russians. All right, back to the article. As well as its humane rights violations, annexation of Crimea, and military operations in eastern Ukraine. The bill's passage drew ire from Moscow, which responded by stripping 755 staff members and 2 properties from U.S. missions in the country, all but crushing any hope for the reset in U.S.-Russian relations that Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin had called for. Okay, so what's in the sanctions bill? What's in that bill that has made Russia, if Russia has been the one that hit us, what would be in that to make Russia so angry to do such damage to America? Well, the article says the bill puts sanctions on Russia, Iran, and North Korea, and it substantially reduces the president's power to waive or ease these certain sanctions without congressional approval, meaning that Trump is not going to be able to back off or cool off or pull back on any part of these sanctions to a large degree. So what are the sanctions? The Russian sanctions will target people and entities. Now, hear that part. Did you hear that word, people? Okay? This is not just targeting the Russian nation. This is targeting people within Russia, and it even names them. So the Russian sanctions will target people and entities that undermine U.S. cybersecurity on behalf of the Russian government, invest certain amounts of Russia's energy export pipelines. Let me read that again. Russia's energy export pipelines. So we are hitting Russia's finances, specifically rest assured that these are the people that rule Russia, because these are the guys that own the Russian oil pipelines. Well, did you know that most of the wars in the 20th century were all over oil? And as prophecy students, we know that most of the rest of the wars between now and the return of Jesus are also going to be over oil. Go look at Ezekiel 38, I believe it's 38:6. It says, and I will put a hook in her jaws. I believe that hook is the oil that is sucked out of Russia by Israel, because I think the reason Russia comes down to attack Israel at Armageddon is because her oil wells have gone dry, and I think the reason they come down on horseback is because they are literally out of oil. they don't have anything to put in their big fancy war machine. And also, if you go back and look, history will tell you, that is the truthful history, that one of the reasons that Japan attacked America is because her oil was cut off. Japan's oil was cut off, and so Japan, from her point of view, didn't see another option. She had to enter the war. Again, I've heard that, but again, proving that may be another issue entirely. Let's go back to the article, though. Certain amounts of Russia's energy export pipelines also conduct significant transactions within Russian defense and intelligence agencies, parentheses, though this will come into effect 6 months from now. So, we're targeting Russia's defense and her pipelines. These are the ruling leaders in Russia, rest assured, just like they are in America. I mean, the Russian military machine is just probably as big, or not bigger, than the American military machine and all of the military contractors. So, yeah, that's what we're attacking. Let's go on, though. Commit or assist in serious human rights abuses. I think that's just covering. Commit acts of significant corruption. Well, Russia has and is and probably always will be a pretty corrupt nation. Let's go on, though. Provide support to the Syrian government to acquire arms. I don't think that's really it. Invest or facilitate the investment of $10 million or more in the Russian government's privatization of any state-owned asset in a one-year period that could unfairly benefit, here it is, listen to this, government officials or their associates. See, this is not really attacking the nation of Russia as much as it is the leaders, the ruling elite, the oil companies, the military defense contractors in Russia. That's who this is really attacking. So are they angry? You betcha. Would that give them cause to attack America? Well, from their point of view, they could care less. You hit me, I'm going to hit you. It's the same attitude we see in Trump. You hit me, I'm going to hit you. That's the way they think. They don't understand turn the other cheek. And probably Russia thinks they have turned the other cheek long enough. Let's go on, though. The bill lists 12 types of sanctions that can be imposed and obliges the president to use at least 5 in many cases against those affected. They can include, listen here, listen, freezing assets, such as property, revoking U.S. visas, banning exports from the United States to those sanctions. Okay, so now what we're doing, we're talking about trade, stopping trade. Again, we're attacking the wealthy elite in Russia. Let's go on. Russian individuals were hit with travel bans, asset freezes. Do you hear that? Let me say it again. Asset freezes, and companies were hit with restrictions on their activities in the U.S. and EU. Russia's powerful elite, including members of President Putin's, listen carefully, inner circle, were targeted. Let me read that again. Russia's powerful elite, including members of President Putin's inner circle, were targeted. The sanctions were largely aimed at hurting the Russian economy. Don't believe it. They're really targeted at hurting the Russian elite, you see. They targeted Russian state banks and major corporations, including, listen here, state oil companies such as Rosneft and arms makers. Okay, so let's cut to the chase here. What did we do? We are attacking the defense mechanism, which is a large portion of the people. It's just like in America. Look, the biggest business in the world, they say, the biggest business is war. So we are attacking the people that make their arms, their war machine, and their energy or their oil providers, and specifically President Putin's inner circle. Now, do you think that that is motive? Is that motive for them to get mad and say we're going to turn on our scalar wave and we're going to hit you in a way that you can't stop and you can't even point the finger at us? You can't even say we're definitely the one that did it? Let's go on. U.S. election meddling. On December 29th, U.S. President Barack Obama announced fresh sanctions on Russia for allegedly, again, I don't believe they did it, allegedly interfering in the 2016 U.S. election. Those sanctions included the closure of 2 Russian compounds used for intelligence purposes and expelled 35 Russian diplomats from the country. The report by intelligence agencies in January this year alleged that Putin had ordered a cyber influence campaign to help boost Trump's chances of winning the election. Well, I don't know if Putin did that. I mean, sounds to me like a pretty good idea. We saw Obama turn around and try to get and influence an Israeli election. Okay, so it's okay for us to do it, but it's not okay for them to do it. Okay, bottom line. Do we know that Russia did a thing? No, we do not. Let me make that clear. I'm not saying Russia did this. I'm saying that they have the motive. They, according to these 2 DVDs, which I strongly, well, let's put it this way, I think you'll watch these DVDs several times, especially in wake of what just hit us in South Texas by Hurricane Harvey. You watch these DVDs, and I think you will be fascinated. And as I look around on the internet, this is some of the best information out there. I mean, God has sent some amazing speakers with amazing information through Prophecy Club, and this is going to be really good for you to get a hold of these. Again, it's Russia's Secret Weapons to Defeat America by Bill Sneblin and Weapons of the New World Order by Nick Begich, normally $30 each, both available today for a gift of $30. And if you call 785-266-1112, and if you're one of the first 7 callers, we have a special offer for you on a book. I'll tell you what it is if you call in, 785-266-1112. I have been praying, and I'm asking our Fast Track team to also join me praying, that God would show us about North Korea. Is this thing with North Korea going to blow up into something really big and bad, or is it just going to blow over? I'd like to know that. I'd like to know what is going on with Syria. I'd like to know what is the second snake bite. You remember that Michael Boldea had the dream in which he was shown, and an angel visited him during that dream, and he was shown the eagle, and there was 3 different snakes that came and attacked the eagle. The first snake, the angel told him this was 9/11. The third attack, the angel told him this is the destruction of America. But he was told the second snake bite would be much worse than the first, and it would come from an unexpected place. Now, I prayed years ago and asked, what is the next 9/11? And I was shown that it's a series of suitcase nukes secreted all across America. I believe they're there. We've talked about this several times, so I won't go into that in a lot of detail. But I do think that America, especially as we see this fussing and fighting going on and stuff like Charlottesville, we see that, and that is speeding up the judgment coming on this nation. So, brothers and sisters, please join Fast Track, joining us, fasting and praying to stop some of this. Also, remember, Prophecy Club must go on. Yes, it's good to help our brothers and sisters in South Texas, but we got to see Prophecy Club continue too. And ever since the rain fell in South Texas, the donations have stopped here at the Prophecy Club. We did have a good day in the mail today, but boy, it's been really, really dry. So if you could help, now would be a wonderful time to do so. Once again, I love you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your gifts of support. God bless. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. I'm the next speaker at the Prophecy Club. I memorized the book of Revelation, and in the process, God gave me 12 awesome revelations. Jesus is not the primary message of Revelation. What is? My biggest revelation, what is the morning star? Who are the 2 witnesses? The final answer to the rapture question. Definitive proof that America is in Revelation. And what is America's future? 7 signs to spot the Antichrist early. When does the New Jerusalem arrive? Are there 1 or 2 judgments? The surprising final plague on earth. October 14th and 15th, Saturday evening, 7 p.m., Sunday morning, 9 a.m., at the Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue in Plano. That's October 14 and 15, Saturday evening, 7 p.m., Sunday morning, 9 a.m., Spirit of Prophecy Church, corner of Park and K in Plano. No charge. It's on Revelations on Revelation. See you there. Order your copy of the DVD at prophecyclub.com.